For decades, governments had a lock on the flow of money. It was their system. But then, something changed. A new system came along, one with no central boss, no single point of control, which begs the question, if no one's in charge of it, can anyone actually stop it? Can governments really regulate it, or maybe even shut it down for good? Well, the answer is a whole lot more complicated than you might think. Now, just a quick heads up, this explainer on blocks, bonds, funds is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not financial or investment advice.
So, let's start at the beginning. At its very core, blockchain was built to be a total game changer, a complete break from the past. You have to imagine a system specifically designed to operate beyond the reach of any one person, company, or government. I mean, think about it. A network with no president, no CEO, and no headquarters you can point to on a map.
And this really shows you what we're talking about. Over on the left, you've got the old world, a centralized server, kind of like a bank's main computer. Everything runs through one spot, which means it has a single point of failure. If you want to shut it down, you know exactly where to go. But on the right, that's a whole different beast. It's a decentralized network. Power is spread out everywhere, so there's no one weak spot. And that makes it incredibly tough to take down. Let's get into the DNA of this thing. First off, there's no central authority calling the shots. The nodes, those are the computers that make up the network's backbone, are scattered all over the world. Anyone can join, which is why we call it permissionless. And the whole thing is designed from the ground up to resist censorship. Every transaction gets carved into a public record that, and this is the key part, can never be changed.
This global map really drives the point home, doesn't it? I mean, how do you regulate something like this? There are no headquarters to raid. There isn't a single server you can just unplug. The network is, well, it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It just flows across borders like they aren't even there, which makes all the old-school law enforcement tactics pretty much useless against the core system itself.
Okay, but here's where the story takes a really fascinating twist. Governments realized they couldn't just attack this thing head-on, so they changed their strategy. They started looking for the weak points, the places where this new digital world has to connect with our traditional financial system. And that's how they found the regulatory choke points. The strategy is actually pretty brilliant. Don't waste your time trying to shut down Bitcoin or Ethereum itself. Instead, you control the on-ramps and the off-ramps. You know, the bridges that we all have to use to turn our dollars or euros into crypto and then turn it back into cash again. Those gateways, that's where the real fight for control is happening. So for most people getting into crypto, the journey looks just like this. You start with regular money in your bank. Then you wire that money to a crypto exchange. And boom, right there, step 2, that's the choke point. That is exactly where regulators can jump in, way before you've even bought your first bit of crypto. And at these gateways, regulators come armed with a whole toolkit. You've got Know Your Customer or KYC rules, which means the exchange has to check your ID and prove you are who you say you are. Then there's anti-money laundering or AML rules, which force them to report any suspicious activity. And then there's stuff like the travel rule, which makes them share information about who's sending money to whom. You know, just like banks have been doing for years. But here's the real problem. These rules are a total patchwork all over the world. In the US, it's this complicated mess of different state and federal laws. The EU is trying to get everyone on the same page with their MiCA framework. China just went ahead and banned transactions outright. Meanwhile, a place like Singapore has rolled out the red carpet with really clear, business-friendly rules. It's a confusing landscape, to say the least.
So, if the exchanges are the choke points, what's the obvious next move for anyone who wants that pure decentralized experience? You just bypass them. You go around them entirely. And this brings us into the world of peer-to-peer transactions, what a lot of people call the true digital version of cash.
And that's a really powerful question, isn't it? I mean, if you just stay inside the crypto world, sending funds directly from one wallet to another, can you really fly under the regulatory radar? Well, the answer comes down to understanding the huge difference between two kinds of digital wallets. First up, you've got what's called a hosted or custodial wallet. The absolute easiest way to think about this is like your bank account. Some third party, usually an exchange, is holding on to your private keys for you. That's the password to your money. And because they're a business, They're the ones on the hook for all those KYC and AML rules. But then you have a self-hosted wallet, also called non-custodial. And this is a whole different ball game. The perfect analogy here is a real physical wallet with cash in your pocket. You and only you have the private keys. You have total control. There's no company in the middle, which means there's no one there to enforce regulations on you. But hang on, because this is where a huge misconception trips people up. Using a self-hosted wallet doesn't make you invisible. It's not true anonymity. It's what we call pseudonymity. See, being anonymous means there's zero link to your real identity. But being pseudonymous means you're just using a digital alias, your wallet address, which, if someone looks hard enough, can often be traced right back to you.
And how is that even possible? It's because every single one of those peer-to-peer transactions is recorded forever on a public ledger that anyone can look at. The flow of money is totally transparent. So even though your name isn't right there, investigators and data companies can follow the digital breadcrumbs. And the second those funds hit a regulated exchange somewhere down the line, well, that's when your digital alias can get unmasked.
So after all that, where does it leave us? You've got this incredible tension, right? A network that was built for total freedom and a regulatory system that was built for total control. And what's emerging is something much more subtle. We're seeing a new balance of power. It's not really about control anymore. It's about influence. Which brings us right back to where we started. That big question. Who is actually in control here? Is it the massive decentralized network of users all around the world, or is it the governments that make the rules? And the answer is, well, it's kind of both, and it's kind of neither. It's become obvious this isn't about one side winning with absolute control. What's really happening is that the ecosystem is being shaped. Governments know they can't kill blockchain, but they can, and they absolutely do, set the rules of the road for how most of us are going to use it.
And here's the part that might surprise you. Regulation isn't always a bad thing. Having clear rules actually builds trust and makes the whole space feel more credible. It gives consumers some much-needed protection from scams, it helps stop crime, and maybe the biggest thing of all, it's the key that opens the door for big money institutions to finally get in the game.
This image here is the perfect way to think about where we are today. Picture the decentralized network as this powerful, unstoppable river. You can't just stop the river, but what the regulations do is build a series of channels and dams. They don't stop the water from flowing, but they absolutely direct where it goes and how it connects to the rest of the world. So in the end, we're left with a bit of a paradox. Can governments control blockchain? No, not really. That decentralized heart is always going to be out of their reach. But by controlling the gateways, they have an immense power to shape how it's used, who uses it, and how it's eventually going to become part of our everyday lives. So the question isn't really about who's in control anymore. It's about what kind of future this incredible, delicate balance of power is going to build for all of us.